please. Keelan, item 108.
Request of Sarah Reeser to address council regarding safe streets. Sarah is joining us online.
Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and members of the City Council. My name is Sarah Risser, and I'm here to talk about Portland's public safety crisis of deadly roads. I keep track of fatal crashes in Portland. This is a very sad and a very grim project, but it's clarified a few things that are worth considering. The rate at which people are killed while driving, walking, or cycling in Portland is as steady as a heartbeat. It's like the ongoing pulse of a metronome. Portland road fatalities have become nearly as predictable as the sun rising each morning. And this is not because road fatalities are inevitable. Nearly every road fatality is preventable. It's because our transportation system is deadly by design. The loss of a life in road traffic is no less tragic than a life lost to gun violence, yet it often seems the value of a life is immediately diminished if it's lost in traffic. We shrug it off as an unfortunate accident instead of holding ourselves to a higher standard by demanding that we apply lessons learned from each crash throughout the city to ensure road safety is continually improved and similar violence doesn't happen again. Picture, if you will, a sniper at large in Portland who kills one random person every week. It's not hard to imagine how terrorized the city would be. All resources would be deployed to find that person and bring them to justice. Yet the loss of life would be no more than what we are experiencing now. It's a valid question that I pose to you today. Why do you tolerate violent death when it's caused by vehicular traffic? I'll again express my surprise that you, sitting in positions of relative power, have done so little to address Portland's most pressing public safety crisis. What I have heard from Mayor Wheeler more than a few times is that reckless driving is to blame. But expressing frustration and wishing it away is not a road safety solution. This won't get us anywhere because reckless driving is the symptom of an unsafe transportation system, not the cause of it. We have too many oversized vehicles capable of unnecessarily high speeds on streets that prioritize vehicles without protecting pedestrians and cyclists. If you look where road fatalities are happening, you will see that they are clustered on fast roads like 82nd and Sandy Boulevard. Until you find the political will to take decisive action to address the systemic problems in our transportation system, the steady drumbeat of violent death will go on unabated. We will continue to worry and wonder who will be killed this year. Will it be a child? A doctor crossing the street to their clinic, a mother? Maybe it'll be one of us sitting here in this room. It's past time to formally acknowledge road violence as Portland's top public safety crisis. You are leaders. You need to start working intentionally to address Portland's road safety crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mapps.
Sarah, I want to thank you very much for testifying today. Like you, I share your concern and frustration and despair at the traffic deaths that we face on our streets. In your comments, you said our transportation system is deadly by design. Well, I completely agree that we need to continually make improvements to our transportation infrastructure. You know, here's the frame that I think about transportation in the city. We have our infrastructure, and then we have our rules and systems that we use to manage this. Our infrastructure, PBOT is deeply committed to and is out there every day making structural changes and improvements to our roads and sidewalks and crosswalks. And we will continue doing that for as long as I'm here. I think you said something which actually I do kind of disagree with. You said that our unsafe driving is a symptom of our unsafe system. And here, I'm not sure if I agree with you on that. You know, when I take a look at traffic fatalities in the Portland metro area. The vast majority of them include individuals who are high or drunk. Often both folks fall into that category. I do think that there are things that the city of Portland can do around that. Frankly, that would be increased traffic enforcement. Indeed, I would argue if you take a look at the increase in traffic fatalities over recent history, one of the things that is clearly correlated with is the city getting out of the business of doing traffic enforcement. Once we did that, we saw traffic fatalities go up. That's why I am in a continuous dialogue with my colleagues on council to try to get increased traffic enforcement back on the books. Just yesterday, we had a budget hearing from our public safety folks. I know that we operate in a constrained environment on the public safety side. And indeed, I think at the end of this week, you will hear me present the budget numbers for my bureaus, including the Bureau of Transportation, which currently faces a $35 million in cuts in next year's budget. I'm working with my colleagues and members of the community to try to shrink that gap so that we continue to invest in building a safer road infrastructure. But in addition to the stuff that we do in the PBOT side, I really need my colleagues on council to come together to figure out how we can continue to make our community safer, especially around traffic enforcement. And she's exactly right. As I mentioned before, I think that we actually lose more people at this point through traffic deaths than we do through homicides, which frankly wasn't the way it was even 2 years ago.
Yeah, and Sarah, I'm tempted not to take the bait, but I'll take it anyway. I said more than what you characterized me as having said. I did indeed say that personal behavior it plays a huge role in terms of traffic fatalities in our streets, and Commissioner Maps just gave the data. And I would just argue distracted driving in general tends to be a problem, in addition to people who are drunk and high, which continues to be a problem. There's very little government can do about that except enforce the law and make sure that people who drive drunk or high are separated from their privileges to drive. And by the way, a couple of the crashes we've had this year have actually been people who have already had their licenses removed. So behavior does matter, but that's not exclusively what I said. I want to underscore what I did say, which is we understand that there are infrastructural improvements that need to be made. And I mentioned two in particular, and I think you were there. The first is speed bumps. We know where the 3 top roads are in this city that contribute to traffic fatalities. And what if just on an emergency basis, we just decided to put speed bumps on those streets until we do the longer term engineering solution in order to slow people down on those throughways? Well, Commissioner Maps correctly pointed out to me that we don't control those roads. Those are actually state highways. But that's no excuse for a lack of action. That means we just need to lobby our colleagues at the state harder. And Sarah, we would love to have you join us shoulder to shoulder in doing that too. And then, of course, the second area is the crosswalks. It should not be a dangerous, risky proposition to walk across the street in Portland, Oregon. And the idea that some people get run over in crosswalks that are not only brightly signed, but they're brightly lit and they have flashing lights, and still people die in those intersections. We need to do more. We need to be more thoughtful, more clever, more creative in terms of how that infrastructure is actually created in order to stop those traffic fatalities. Last but not least, please do not say we do not care about traffic fatalities. You can call me anything you want, call me names, poke fun of me, make things up about what I did or didn't say, but do not say we do not care about people dying on our streets, or frankly, people dying from gun violence or people dying from any other purpose. That's why I'm here, frankly. Just letting you know that's my perspective, and I'm a short-termer here, and I'm just going to be speaking truth right back to people speaking truth. Commissioner Maps and then Commissioner Ryan.
I think Commissioner Ryan had his hand up first.
Yeah, but you could go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate this discussion around especially the enforcement piece. I think that's where our low-hanging fruit is. I also want to reference the work session on public safety we had yesterday. One of the things that we learned in that work session is that, at least for the next couple of years, we expect staffing levels in the police bureau to be flat. That's not because we're doing a bad job of recruitment, but rather we have an older workforce there, so people are retiring, and as you do that mix, we stay flat. So one of the puzzles I'm trying to figure out, and I very much look forward to dialoguing with the mayor and Commissioner Gonzalez and every smart person in the room, is to figure out how we do increased traffic enforcement when our police force is relatively flat for the next couple of years. That's going to be a challenge. I also think that it takes a whole village to build a transportation system. One option here would be to continue to work with our state partners to see if we can get the state police to help
Yes.
manage some of our roads. And we've had some, I mean, to be fair, the governor, I think, has been very open to conversations like this. I would posit that this is a conversation that we need to elevate, and frankly need to elevate between now and the end of the fiscal year, so we have kind of a plan moving forward. And this condition is not going to change for the next 2 years, given what we know about how fast we can onboard police.
Yeah, and to that point, I'll get to Commissioner Ryan in just a minute. And Sarah, I see you have your hand raised. I'll make sure you get the last word on this. Yesterday, Governor Newsom announced in California that he was sending 120 state troopers to Oakland to help with local law enforcement related issues. And Oakland, of course, has even more significant issues than we do. It's really a city that right now is in trouble. But I do think that state officers are starting to realize that municipal governments are being swamped by crisis after crisis after crisis with fairly limited authority and fairly limited resources. Again, getting back to the point that, I believe 2 of the 3 most dangerous crossings in our city are not on city streets, they're on state highways. And we don't have jurisdiction there. So it requires us to do more to partner. Commissioner Ryan, and then Sarah, you get the last word.
Well, first of all, Sarah, thanks for being here, and Commissioner Maps and Mayor, great, thoughtful dialogue. I didn't know I was going to mention this, but on Sunday I was on Willamette, and the yellow lights were flashing, and cars just kept going. And then finally, it was my turn to stop, so I did. But I was just shocked how many cars went through while the lights were flashing. So I don't know how to explain that type of behavior. It was sunny. And we had sunshine on Sunday. It was in the afternoon. There was no reasons that it wasn't weather related. Commissioner, I wanted to bring up, someone came in not too long ago and talked about daylighting.
Yeah.
And in Hoboken, New Jersey, it's been tested. And I know just from both as a pedestrian and as a driver, it's so hard to see over the big SUVs and the other big trucks. And so I just hope that dialogue is turning into some action. It seems like a sensible step in terms of safety.
Commissioner Ryan, it absolutely is. Daylighting is one of the strategies that PBOT is implementing. It's relatively cheap. We'll see more of that in the future. For those of you watching at home, daylighting is kind of the notion that let's not let people park right next to the corner so you can see around. I will tell you, I have to navigate as I take my kid back and forth from soccer practice, and like probably 16th and Burnside, in fact, it's right across the street from Lolo Pass. There's a situation like that. It's dangerous as all get out. There's just no way to navigate that, especially given the speeds that are on Burnside. Sarah's point that there's engineering work to be done here is absolutely true. As all of you know, PBOT spends tens of millions of dollars every year improving our infrastructure. We're deeply committed to doing that. Today we have a new PBOT, kind of a bread and butter PBOT, trying to get the basics right. Safety is job number 1. At the same time, I want everyone here to know that PBOT is probably the most financially distressed bureau in this city. And number 2, infrastructure isn't the entire answer. All right, and Mr. Mayor, we can debate which bureau has it worse, but certainly PBOT faces some real challenges.
Not good.
It's not good, and I'm committed to making it better. And with that, Sarah, you've been very patient, so why don't I hand the floor to you?
Sarah, you got to close this out. And by the way,
Okay.
thank you for being here, and thank you for provoking
Yeah.
really important conversation, so thank you.
Sure. I will be brief. Most importantly, I want to thank you all for the discussion that we had this morning briefly. I appreciate all the thought that you have put into this, and I appreciate your hard work. That's the most important thing that I want to convey. I also want to say, point of clarification, I agree that driving behavior is terrible. It's egregious. The point I was trying to make is that I believe personally we can be more effective by ensuring streets don't encourage dangerous driving. And finally, I just wanted to say I don't presume, Mayor Wheeler, to know what you care about. I think my point was I feel we should be doing more. So I
think
just
we can
wanted to
agree.
clarify.
We agree on that, and I appreciate you. Thank you, Sarah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next individual, please. Item number 109.